Listo, listo. Buenas tardes a todos. ¿Ya te mandé coadmin, Negreta? A ver, te voy dando micro por las dudas. Ahí vamos. No chancita que nos allá, a que nos acomodemos. Hola, hola, buenas tardes.
¿Me escuchan?
Sí, perfectamente.
Excelente.
Déjame, le hablo al Basadovich.
Pidió 5 minutos. Pidió 5 minutos, dijo, denme 5 minutos.
Ok, entonces me espero para mandárselo a super.
Awesome, sí.
Ajá, sí, ok, me espero.
Ujú.
Ok. Ay, bueno. Al ratito voy a subir, yo creo, los tweets, ¿no? Aquí arriba. ¿Cómo ves?
Sí, o de una vez. De una vez
Bueno,
estoy subiéndolos.
bueno, voy a subir el micro y voy subiendo los tweets.
Ujú. El espacio de hoy es en inglés. Vamos a estar hablando con una invitada de Florida. Ella pertenece al grupo Gays Against Groomers. Es un grupo que digamos está formado por miembros de la comunidad LGBT y que se oponen a la imposición de estas ideologías a los niños. Entonces, la conversación se va a llevar a cabo en inglés, así que afilen su inglés, muchachos, porque no va a ser en español.
Efectivamente, y les recordamos que es micro cerrado y hasta que no terminemos, entonces ya. Mira, ya llegó.
Super Awesome's in the house. Say hi, everyone. Super Awesome's here. Hey there. How are you, Super Awesome? Welcome.
Thank you. How are y'all?
Oh, we're doing great. We're waiting for another of our guests and co-hosts. He asked us for around 5 minutes, so it's around time that he joins us. So we're waiting for him. So let's wait a little bit. Mariana is also just arranging some stuff. She's just waving at us. So we're gonna wait a little bit for people to join, for people to connect and stuff like that. We will share the space with people so that more people can join us.
Sweet.
Si me hacen favor, los que ya están aquí en la sala, de compartir el space para que se vaya sumando más gente, se los agradecería muchísimo. Hi, Super Awesome. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking me to come on here.
Thanks for coming to Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, that's normally not my go-to. So I'm new here. So I'm thankful that people are able to spread the message on the platforms that I don't get to.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing my content on Twitter or X, whatever you have to call it now.
Ya llegó aquí el señor Basado. Déjame le paso coadmin. Y tú dices cuándo empezamos.
Yo digo que ya. Super Awesome. How's your Spanish?
Poquito.
Excellent. Don't worry. We will do our best. Our English is also poquito.
Yeah. Well, I don't feel like you have a problem. I've never had a problem understanding yours, so You
Cool.
you play it well if you're not an expert already.
Yeah, no, I use an AI. You know, this is a self-translated text. So, uh, let's talk about a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about, please, share your, like your account so that people can follow you on on Instagram. As many people might know, like most of Mexicans might not know, but she's really famous on Instagram. And she shares these very interesting clips explaining some news, like relevant news about this grooming in the States. So can you just tell us a little bit about that, please?
So I started my account on TikTok about 3 years ago, and I just started making random videos. But then I started realizing how much grooming was going on all around me, and I started watching videos of other people, and Gays Against Groomers got in contact with me and asked if I would like to join their organization and make content. And that was about a year ago. And now I'm the chapter lead of Florida. I'm a co chapter of Florida, along with my co chapter, Mercedes. We go and talk at school board meetings. Uh, and we just got done going to Tallahassee and testifying on behalf of a bill, an anti grooming bill that is here in the state of Florida. Um, and I think that people really appreciated my honesty, and uh, and because I have a funny way about me. I guess I people find me interesting and kind of enjoy learning how they could be of service too, and protect these kids. So I mean that's ultimately my heart. I uh, I myself went through a traumatic childhood, so if I could prevent that for another child, that's why I do what I do. Nothing ever happens if you don't get involved. Nothing happens without action, And with that being said, it's like, you know, like a lot of time people go, "Oh, that's not real. That's not actually happening." And I guess it's like kind of a privilege that they don't know that there's people out there that are struggling and literally going through these situations currently, and there's no one to help them because everybody wants to be like an ostrich and like
They
stick
hide
their
their
head in the
head.
sand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like this isn't really happening. This isn't going to happen.
The current thing is never gonna happen. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
and I say nothing, anything could ever happen. Like, like at any given time, something like this could happen, especially if you turn a blind eye to it. And I think for a long time, because they packaged it really pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah. Yeah.
packaged it in kindness. Let's be kind. And, in that word, you go, oh, yeah, I really do. I want to be kind. However, is it kind to kind of affirm mental delusions? Is that kind? Or is that like actually
It is not.
really insensitive?
It is not. It is not kind at all. Like it's it's troubling in the long run. So it tilts, it tilts a little bit, like step by step, slowly. It tilts what it could be, a life, like fulfilled life, and it tilts it towards something that is very like imprisoning, right? Like something that can become very like detrimental and irreversible in a very short time. So those things we have to be careful. And Believe me, we really appreciate your honesty. Those clips are super awesome, super awesome. We really enjoy this style that you have to talk, to explain these things, especially because they are not easy things to say, right? Like all this perversion, to describe it, to go to the, like the nerve of it, like this is what's going on, this is troubling, these are problems. It's very like, it's super awesome, like the work that you're doing, the clips that you're sharing. It's super awesome. uh Today you shared this clip about this law, the HB bill 1135, right? The House Bill
Yes.
1135, about how do you say it, make it clear. You want to make clear in Florida that there is this lewd grooming, right? Like this sexual grooming, because there are a lot of, as you explained to me before, like when we were making this test drive, like there is grooming for gangs, and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that. But you make it clear in this bill that there is this specific sexual grooming that is affecting people, well, not people, children, right? Like there's this communication that is aimed at children.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about that a little bit, because it's super interesting, and then we will talk to you about this law that is being passed today, if it hasn't, and you will see it kind of, like kind of connects with that.
So, like, right now, as the law stands, uh, if an adult were to text a child something sexual, they wouldn't necessarily get in trouble unless they were like aiming to like lure them to their house, to a park, to a car. Uh, but the actual like sexual manner isn't like it's unclear. Like you can't really arrest somebody for that unless they were going to actually like there's proof throughout the text that they were actually leading them to meet up. So this is where the grooming bill would come into play. That like before anything happens, before they're lured, that would then be a cause to, you know what I mean, to, give charges to that person. So, it's more like they don't, sometimes people don't understand grooming happens like they're very patient.
Yeah.
Like it's not they gain a relationship. They find out what your interests are, what your likes are. They like to find out what your vulnerabilities are. Um because that happens over a period of time, and then they introduce touch, then they introduce sexual contact. So it's a period of time. So we're trying to get communication, the acts before the sexual assault.
Well, that's
That's
literally,
what
yep.
that's the grooming bill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's already against the law to have sex with a minor. Like, but
Yeah.
let's try and stop it at the root, like before they get in themselves into those situations, because like an anti-grooming bill eventually should cover so many different vast topics. Like I told you when we were, practicing, just
Yeah.
like gang members, like what
Yeah.
do? They groom children to become criminals, to become sex traffic workers. So like there's so many aspects of grooming that's not only negative, so that way we kind of like shed that light, is
Yeah.
that there are good grooming qualities, like, we groom our hair, our makeup, the way we dress. We groom maybe a child to be a baseball player or a pianist or a scientist, whatever, you know. You teach them a trade, right? So you're grooming them into that trade. So like it's so complex that sometimes people go, they don't really know what it means because it really depends on how you're using that word.
Yeah, l- let me try to present you this. The grooming process is very slow, right? Like they start slowly, like they become friends with the child, and they just keep like building up, right? So what this law, like what this bill is actually trying to stop, is the first uh, forms that might seem casual, right? Like people in this reversion of terms and in this reversion or normalization of sexual stuff, right? What they're like the door that we're opening, and it's very subtle, right? It's very, very subtle. But what we're opening is this is like slowly we can have these conversations with children. And so people will abuse this. The abusers will abuse this kind of gates, this kind of loopholes, right? Like they will take advantage of this, and they will start to talk, they will, as the term like says it, groom slowly. So let me present this to you. Like the process of love bombing to induce people into a cult, and this slow grooming, it's like it's so similar. Like it's so similar that they can basically, like they go get hand to hand, right? So that's very interesting, that at least you have a law that recognizes this in the early stages, and that you're trying to fight it. This can, and this is going somewhere. Like, for example, here in Mexico today, we have this new legislation in which they are defining everything everything but affirming care as torture, literally, right? So for people that doesn't know, affirming care literally means celebrating, honoring, and love bombing a child into believing that his subjective interpretation of his sexuality is reality, right? Like this, what you just said like a minute ago, well, a few minutes ago, about this delusion, right? Like empowering a delusion that will, like tilt people towards a bad ending, right? And this goes straight into uh, self-mutilating, and all these things that are irreversible, that are extremely invasive, right? So it's very interesting, right, that these things like happen simultaneously. Like today we have this law, and you just talked about it. So let me explain you this legislation a little bit, like in a very, very, very short wait, hold on. Your favorite, can you take the mic? Hold on a second.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Super Awesome. I want to thank you on behalf of us that are here today, uh, taking some time off to talk with us. Um, these topics are very, very broad, very hard to understand and to establish to the majority of Mexicans that are uninformed. So the fact that there are multiple people in the United States, Canada, the European Union, and multiple other places fighting against these, but not us, is very telling. They are using the fact that most of us are ignorant in not only law, grooming, sexuality, and all of these,
Mm-hmm.
but in just the average everyday life, right? So I thank you for coming today and explaining what's happening there. And maybe also we can provide some resources so you can exemplify what is happening all over the world, and especially in a very close neighbor that we are. Sometimes language and culture divides us, but in reality, we have a very common enemy, and that
Yeah.
enemy is the normalization, proliferation, and legalization even of pedophilia and child sexual abuse. I want to thank you. And just for your information and everybody else's information, this account is just parody. So don't take it straightforward. My profile picture is just a meme, if you will. Thank you very, very much, Super Awesome. And I hope this is a very interesting exercise, and maybe we can repeat it in other instances. Thank you very much.
Your favorite. Thank you so much for just being available to listen. Sometimes it is a very hard topic to talk about. So you get shunned a lot because it's something that nobody wants to talk about. And I kind of think it's super cool that I have people that don't even speak the same language as me, but can understand what it is that I'm trying to do. And there's people that speak the same language as me, and they are completely clueless as to what I'm trying to accomplish. So I always appreciate people that have an open heart and just like this dying need to protect children. I think it's so important. Obviously I had some issues as a child, and I went through some trauma, and I just want to be the adult that would have protected me when I needed it. So this is something that I have a bleeding heart for. Not everybody has the same passion or purpose, but I do believe that we all have a cross to bear, and perhaps we haven't figured out what cross that is. But in order for us to reach broader communities and be able to, actually, be kind, the kind that they're talking about, oh, be kind. It takes lots of work, and actually loving on each other by telling each other the truth, by working together, and not allowing color or sexual orientation or any of those things to divide us, because really none of that matters. What really matters is the fact that, are you a good person, or are you out there trying to justify mutilating children, or justify criminals, not being punished, whatever the case is, what I'm talking about. So thank you for listening.
No, no, for us it's an honor to talk to you. Like, literally. So let me tell you what's going on in Mexico. I hope it doesn't, scare you. No, I know you know. Uh, we have this legislation in which it has, like, as I mentioned, it has been uh, considered like any other thing that is not affirmative care. It will be considered as torture, right? So if you pay or bring someone to this treatment that is not affirmative care, you can go up to 8 years to jail and pay a fine of about $12,000. That's the fine. So they start low. They start with I don't know, around $6,000, $5,000 if you bring this, if you do this. But if the person is underage, it doubles, and if you have a parenting relation with the person, it doubles again, right? So it is twice and then again twice. Like,
So
So
4 times.
yeah, so 4 times, and it kind of comes to the, like around 20,000, $12,000, something like that. So from there, you have these propositions that have been made through the UN, through the UNESCO, through all of these organizations, like international organizations, that are, like reaffirming this. And people think that this is not going to happen. Like they are thinking this is not going to happen. Mexico is not that kind of, like we are not up, and we are extremely, and I will say it in Spanish, we are very machistas, like we celebrate the macho culture and stuff like that, so it's never gonna happen. This law is not gonna happen. The current thing is not gonna happen. And interestingly enough, people also ignore that, for example, the organization, the American organization Drag Queen Story Hour, has been for years in Mexico. We know that they have been here since 2019. And it is the same organization. It's not an organization independent from the United States. It is the same organization. And it's very interesting because, as you mentioned before, like you were in this live conversation, I don't know, like on Sunday last weekend, and you were telling people about these organizations, right? Like the sponsors that you go and check everything up, and none of the sponsors comes from your city and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. It's very interesting how these things are being economic.
They're targeted.
Yeah, yeah. There's people investing in these things, and it's not even from around, right?
Well, a lot of people don't realize is that children are are a currency, like their money. Their currency. No longer is money an issue as much as it is children are a currency, and they want to use and abuse them, and that's why they attack vocabulary. Like, you had mentioned that video that I had out with that representative, that committee member, kind of like shaming me for saying, like, well, if you vote on the if you vote down on this, then that says everything that we need to know about you. So when I did that, it kind of brought that to my attention, is that, why would they want to interrupt their currency? I think a lot of people that have big names and lots of money, like they have lobbyists and they have these committee members in their pocket. I think that if real investigation was done, because at the end of the day, like normal people would go to any lengths to save children. Why would they be offended by a word? The guy was offended by the word groomer, which, I mean, in all honesty, the definition in which we're using it, right, is, sexual contact with a minor. That word was created in about, like, I think the 1980s, during a series of investigations for sex crimes against children in the US. And that's where they kind of were able to see, like, what grooming looked like and how it took place, and how it was a non-violent act, and people were blown away that these children and even adults were manipulated to the point that even though they were being sexually assaulted, they were willingly staying at this point, because like none of it was actually forced. They just manipulated them over a period of time because they're very patient. They're very patient. So, like it was almost like a mental battle in the head. I'm sure y'all have never seen it. Maybe, I don't know. They probably have it in Spanish. You ever seen that movie Get Out?
Yeah, from
Oh,
A24, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
and so the guy is, these people have this guy in his mind, and
Yeah.
I feel like, I was like that. I was stuck in my mind, and thinking about like very superficial things, and it kept me in a state of ignorance for a very long time. And it was like the moment I escaped it, like I was running, like I'm not going back that way. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
once that guy realized what the hell was going on, he's like, hell no, I'm out. Boom, 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 boom. Right. So that's kind of like, just like if I could, throw a picture on it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
One becomes very robotic, right? Because of these ideas, they kind of possess you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I call it the Star Wars effect. You know how the dark side always talk about the dark side and how they hate love, they love hate, they are evil. They call themselves the dark side, right? And people expect for the bad guys to be like that. Like they expect people to be openly, right, like openly against things. And then these people come and they switch these terms, right? They talk about love, they talk about acceptance, they talk about inclusion, right? And people buys this. And when you buy it, then this idea of, like, it just crawls into your mind, that they think, like, they make you think that they are here to solve every problem of humanity. And it's super weird when you're reading these authors, and like, they're how do you say this, their discourse, their speech, right, their line of thinking is just like promises and promises of resolution, and they are very precise on making, like, this diagnosis of the problem. Like, this is the problem, and it's like, yeah, that's it, and this is the solution: castrate children. It's like, what? And
Oh,
it's super like very weird, like very weird. For example, today we were checking this legislation, what I told you, like this law in Mexico. And one of the explanations of why, like one of the causes why they need to change this and make this like obligate, like how do you say this, like you cannot make anything, right, but you cannot take part on anything but affirmative care in any means, right? Like surgical, medicinal, you know, like you cannot participate in any other way, or it's going to be considered torture. And it's like, all right, you are considering this torture. And then they go and explain it through the Nazi Germany. And they tell you in 1939 in Nazi Germany, there were laws that were trying to castrate homosexuals and pin them with a pink triangle to identify them. And it's like, hold on a second, that's messed up. And it's exactly what they are trying to do with children. They want to pin them not with a triangle, but with a flag, right? And they are trying to not forcibly castrate them, but to introduce these parasitic ideas that make them scream, like to make them ask for this treatment, right? Like for these castrations, for these hormonal treatments that will make a mess of their lives forever, right? So it's super interesting that you just touch on that.
well, yeah. I mean, it's insane to think that anybody in their right mind would go, immediately, will you cut off my genitalia and switch it for me? Like nobody's signing up for that like on the first day. Nobody, it's like over a period of time. It's just like that social transitioning. And then when that's not enough, like let's go ahead and let's take puberty blockers, and then we'll make our way to hormones, and then we will, do not the most invasive surgery, but we'll have a double mastectomy, like these are the process. Like it's just you groom these children into thinking that they're born in the wrong body. No child is born in the wrong body. And, as somebody that has struggled with, my self-confidence and how I feel about myself, like I can't imagine my mom telling me at a young age that, yeah, you were born in the wrong body. Or there's something wrong with you, you know but through surgery and doctor's appointments and therapists and all that, we can fix you. But you were just made, you came to the world broken and messed up. Sorry about your luck, but we're going to fix it through hormone treatments. Like that, nothing about that sounds healthy. Nothing about that doesn't sound like,
Accepting.
Munchausen's by proxy. You
Yeah,
know what
it
I
is
mean?
not accepting. It is not love
No,
at
it's
all.
saying that there's something wrong with you. And if we
Yeah,
truly love somebody, we love them for who they are and what they are. And we don't change them, and we don't let them believe that they need to change a gender in order to be their authentic self. Like you need to learn how to accept we're in reality. Who like this fantasy land, it's not reality. And I think a lot of people go, oh, well, that's not kind to not do this. Well, life isn't kind, and it shows more love to, go, hey, you know what? I know you feel this way. And, I'm going to try my best to help you in any way I can, but I'm not going to write off that you are another sex when, like, biologically, like, medically, there's no way for you to ever switch your gender. You can never switch your gender.
at all, at all.
No, there's no, like, you will, even if you do all of the things, you will still always be biologically whatever you were born originally. There's only two options. Now,
Yep.
you know what I mean? If you're asexual, what do they call it? Not asexual, intersex,
Transsexual, intersex, bi,
intersex.
semi. Yeah,
But even so, you predominantly push towards one or the other.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and there's not piles of intersex people. Like the percentage isn't like up there, like where this is like a real issue. I feel like a lot of these people would end up, and especially these children would end up, I saw that y'all like Jordan Peterson, and he said it several different times. Is that just let the kid be the kid. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the time, 90% of the time, they straighten out, and like they don't deal with the gender dysphoria, and they lead perfectly normal lives. Now 80% of that 90, a lot of them are same sex attracted. You know what
Yep.
I mean? But, as far as like that mental anguish, like, oh, I'm in the wrong body, that dissipates. And I feel like they're not allowing that process to go forward because they want people to be sterile.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. They want these children on these hormones so that way these pharmaceutical companies can make
A
money
lot of
from the
profit. Yeah.
time that these kids are, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all
So
the way until their deathbed.
yeah,
They will be a pharmaceutical customer for life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You just said it, and that's super awesome that you explain it, right? Like you could like go deep and deeper, right? Like children for these people are currency.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they will go into
not just
this.
sexually.
No, 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 no. There's a lot of money involved. You take a children, right? You take a child, and you forbid any other treatment but affirmative care, right? By law, it is forbidden. So this is for people to understand. The people that are listening, check this out. It is forbidden by law to make anything but affirmative care And it goes slowly. First, the child will transition from his gender to trans, or from her gender to trans, and it will continue, like it will build up, build up, build up, and then they go to procedures, right? Like hormone treatments, the clothing and stuff like that, like self identifying and stuff. And then it builds up to the point where they will actually ask for gender, what's the term? Gender affirming care, which means a gender in, like this is not, but they call it gender. Uh, I just lost it. Sorry. Well, they will go through surgery and they will get their glands, their gonads removed. So they will depend, since that point till their deathbed, as Super Awesome just pointed out, they will depend on these hormones. And these are
Yeah.
not cheap, right? These are very
No.
expensive. And so the thing is, like, there is this dark interaction between the people making these laws and the companies making these treatments, because they don't even need to open a store, like they don't need to open anything. They will sell it straight to the government. So that's why the government is so interested in making these laws, right? Like they will pay, they will groom these these I, I these senators, these congressmen, right?
Yeah.
They will groom them. They will pay huge amounts of money to make this, like the law. You cannot avoid this. This is in the law. And how they do it? They talk about love. They talk about, like they talk about inclusion. They talk about discrimination. They talk like they reverse in its entirety the discourse, right? So it's super cool, super awesome that you just dig down there. And so I just expanded it a little bit so that people that are hearing can understand what's going on.
No, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, like I said earlier, like a lot of people aren't aware of these issues, and that's the way they want you to remain. Like the your favorite, you know, said that, the lack of education on this topic, leaves us ignorant, and then on top of that, there's other people going through the same experiences, but they keep us fighting against each other, so that way we don't let each other know like what we're going through or what we're fighting against. They isolate us, so that way there's less likely that we would all come together and fight against the same agenda that is literally slaughtering these kids. And I mean slaughtering them as that they will mentally be discouraged and hopeless, mutilating their bodies, giving them, a complex that, gender ideology is the way of life. Like instead of actually like focusing on like real character defects. I mean, a real character, like good character, like being a good person, like being of service, like giving back to your community. There's so much else to talk about. I always thought it was weird when people would talk about their sexual orientation, because I was just gay with my partner. Like no one else needed to be a part of that with me. No one needs to know about what I do in my bedroom. No, it's just nobody's business, and especially like when it comes to children, like why would I even expose them to that conversation uh unnecessarily, and so with that being said, that's why I like fight against it. It's like, no, like there's a time and a place for everything, and this is not the time or the place, like especially in the schools. Like you will find predators. It doesn't matter. It's in the churches, in these youth groups, like at at these centers, the Boys and Girls Club, the LBGT Community Club, all anywhere there are children, there are predators. You just need to open your eyes and know what grooming looks like, because a lot of those are like you might not ever notice it. Like it could be that, uh that a child is at a boys and girls club, and this man or woman takes an interest in a child, like, and you might not necessarily find anything abnormal about that relationship until you realize that they're spending a lot of time with that particular individual, going out of their way to separate them from the group, going, like making them feel special. They have to build that relationship up before they can actually get there. So, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's all over the place. And that's like, I really want to see that we create a panel that goes to different city halls and invites the community within that city hall. Let you know what grooming looks like and how it affects you in your own community, because it might not just be against the sexualization of children. It might be your gang problem and your overwhelming amount of kids in the juvenile detention center, like all of these like there's so many different things. So I think your favorite wants to say something.
Oh, thank you, because apparently my co-admin cannot see hands, but you said a phrase that if you are not very deep into this cult literature, you will never notice. Way of life. This phrase is very important with this topic because, like my partner here was saying, this is called like, and the behavior these people display socially is very interesting. What do I mean with this? With what I'm saying? If you are part of this community, as they call it, as they label it, you are super awesome, right? You're perfectly fine with them. You're perfectly fine with everybody. You will receive support. You will receive encouragement. You will receive quote unquote love, which is not true love. It's just affirmative therapy. It's just brainwashing. But the second that you are unable to keep up with this brainwashing, that you want to step out of it, that you are out of line, super awesome. I don't want to answer it. What do they do to these people that are not conforming to the rules of this cult?
Well, I mean, they're silencing them. I mean, I have been shut down several
At
times
best, right?
at best. I mean, I guess if I was important enough, uh, it might be even worse. So maybe that's like God's protection. I think that they try to go out of their way to allow this type of behavior to continue, and they'll shut down anybody that would try and stop that, I think.
Yeah, and it even is worse in the cases of the transitioners, right? They are ostracized,
Oh, I mean,
demonized,
well,
bullied.
well, I mean, and I believe, don't hold me to it, uh, is that they are making legislation in the works where, these insurance companies, they're all gun ho about cutting off body parts of healthy individuals, but then when it comes to the detransitioning, like, oh, that's not covered. So I
Yeah,
think there is.
precisely.
So I think they're in the process of writing legislation like, oh no, like if you signed off on them to get these different treatments, you have to provide the chance that, you know, they'll want to detransition as well. Holding these insurance companies, like, are you sure? Make sure that they're going to the right amount of therapy. Make sure they're not underage. Make sure that, you know what I mean, like that they couldn't live a productive, normal life just like maybe with just hormones. I mean, not saying that I'm okay with that. Like, but this is all after the fact that you're 18 years old. You know, people don't understand that kids really, like, you're not fully developed mentally until you're 25 years old. So for the mere fact that, you know, there's 12-year-olds out there being put on hormones and then by 13 they having, you know, a double mastectomy, like that's very extreme. Very extreme, very short amount of time. So these insurance companies have a choice. Now, not everybody goes through insurance. So, you know, you have to go at this on so many different levels from so many different angles. That's why it's so important for us to have this line of communication, right? Is that some people are good in certain areas and other people are good in other areas, and then that's where we need to work together on that.
That's very interesting because in the United States it's very common to go through insurance, right? However, as you said it yourself, maybe in places like California, the state will sponsor completely um, through taxpayers' money these
Mm-hmm.
surgeries. So who do you ask about? Because it's interesting that it's one way but not the way around it. It's not a two-way thing. You can chop up the breasts or the penis of a person. But what happens after that if they regret the decision? Oh, suddenly you're not allowed to reclaim anything from whoever did it. That's hypocritical. If you're so certain of the
Yeah.
job that you're doing as an expert, you're signing it up, right? You're giving up your name and your signature to it. You're giving it away. And then what happens when it actually didn't work? Because the data is very clear, very clear. All of this is experimental at best, if not evil by design. There is no data that supports short, middle, or long term the positive effects of transitioning children.
Because there is,
And let me,
it's not positive and there is no research, like it's not out there because it's never, this part of history has never been experienced yet. So don't tell me that they're not, I'm saying I agree with you, like there is no rhyme or reason as to why they would push something that they know nothing about. That's just like it's actually insane, and people should be very weary about that because this has happened in a very short amount of time.
but
Like,
let me ask you, let me ask you why let me tell you why I told you about the cult like nature of this supposed community, because it's an all-encompassing community that actually means nothing at the end of the day. Mixing LGB with the TQ and the I's, it all doesn't make sense. But I want to explain a concept that I've been using here in Mexico to explain how this works. People that support these surgeries, this butchering of children, are using either culture or legislations like Trojan horses. What are they doing is that they are, like my partner said already, they're criminalizing anything that isn't affirmative therapy. So if you talk your children out of going to a psychiatrist because they think they're the opposite sex, that is criminalized here in Mexico. So the data already explains that butchering children is not effective and actually leads to suicide. The data The international community are already turning their backs on these gender clinics. They're shutting them down. But Mexico suddenly is legislating to criminalize anything but affirmative care that is already proven to be erroneous. And let me tell you why. Because they have an urgency, as my partner would say here in Spanish. There is an urgency to approve this now. So these data and these examples of people that are detransitioning in mass do not explain this in Mexico. So it's too late. And they already have 5, 10, 15 years of advantage. And they have already committed these children to suffering all their lives. Do you think that's conspiracy from us, or do you think that is by design?
Oh, it's 100% by design. It's, I mean, it's once again, these kids are a currency for so many different aspects of life. And people aren't afraid to use that currency. Obviously, because, there's legislation being put out there where they're simply voting no on it because they don't like how a word feels to them. A word is a word of defining something as what it is. Like, we don't get offended when somebody's called a murderer if they've murdered somebody. So, why would you be offended by calling a groomer a groomer? What's the difference? I'm not understanding.
Yeah,
If
describing.
anything,
Yeah, describing is not hate, right?
right. No, like I'm just describing what
Yeah.
that is
Yeah,
and
totally.
what that behavior looks like and how that behavior can affect a child long term. But they're trying to skew it like, oh, you're calling me a pedophile. No, that's not what I said. But if that's how you took it, you might want to look at that. You know what I mean? Like you should be unaffected by what I'm saying if it doesn't resonate with something in you. And at that point, it's not me, it's you. You understand?
Yeah, yeah, completely. People that
Yeah.
claim that speech is violence, I I have this feeling that what they want to do, like by making this as equal, is that they want to use violence against the speech, right? Like that's what they are aiming at. Like, so you said this word, that's violence, so I can use violence against you. That's their aim. It's like very subtle, but it's very like it's very recurrent. I think you are around the time like this is getting to the point where this nice conversation is about to stop.
Yes, I
Yeah,
have another Zoom meeting I have to
yeah.
jump on, but I had so much fun. I didn't know Twitter could be this much fun. So we can definitely try and do this again. Maybe
Oh,
do
we
it like
love.
once a month and
Yeah,
kind
yeah, yeah.
of do
Yeah,
a
we love
check
that.
in.
Yeah, totally. Just let me end with this question, right?
Okay.
Like this is a question. Like this is a legitimate question. How are you fighting this? The current thing is not happening. How do you fight that?
You get involved with in your community locally. Everything's local. Uh, doesn't matter if you're in America or you're in Mexico, wherever you are. Anything worth looking at is in your own community because if it's going on in the world, it's going on in your community. And so you have to be vigilant. Are you going to these school board meeting? Are you going to are you keeping your representatives of your country or of your city like accountable to what's going on and being part of the solution like sharing content and just educating yourselves. That's the biggest thing that will help you get involved and actually make a difference. It's just like me, wanting to set up a panel and go to different city halls and talk about what grooming looks like in their particular community and how it affects so many different people and so many other aspects. Like those are the kind of things that you yourself could do. Like it's just a lot of people have a hard time with it because they're like, well, I have a life, I have a husband, I have a job. Like, I don't have time for that. And I was like, and in my head, like how many hours of TV do I watch? How many hours of like mindless games do I play on my phone? How like there's so many times I could have been of service, but because I'm so self-centered, I don't. And when I realized that, that was when I was like, well, there's actually a lot of time in the day that I could help, and that's where it starts, I think.
Spiritual freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's super, super awesome, super awesome. So, everyone that is here, follow her on Instagram.
It's super awesome FTL.
Follow her here. Follow her on Instagram. Most of her material is there. We shared a little bit of your material. We subtitulated, like we put the subtitles on Spanish because most of our followers, if not all of them, except for you, are Mexican. And it was super awesome to have you here. Let's do this
Thank
again.
you.
Let's do this again. I hope you have
Abs-
an awesome, I hope you have a super awesome day.
I hope you have a super awesome evening, friend. And I'll see you again, okay?
Excellent. Yeah.
Thank you, Super Awesome. On
Thank
top of
you.
this space, I shared a little bit of a translation according to in relation to this legislation here in Mexico. If you want to check it out, we can provide you any resources, and we can keep in touch as much as you would like.
Oh, I would
This
love
is an
that.
opportunity. Yes, of course. This is an opportunity to showcase that individuals that are informed can do a lot of good work, and we don't need labels, right? We don't
Right.
need an umbrella term to mix up all of us together, and we need to get involved, as you said, in our respective communities.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So thank y'all so much. And we will do this again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Marina,
Super awesome.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Anytime. Please let me know when we can do it again, okay?
Totally. Totally. So,
All
talk to you soon.
right. Have a super awesome evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bueno, muchachos, vamos a cerrar para que quede como archivo y la gente pueda consultar el audio. Les agradezco mucho. En un momentito más abrimos uno de opinólogos para que podamos allá comentar todo lo que escucharon aquí en Ciudadanos Informados. Gracias a todos por participar. Un abrazo. Cierro en 3, 2, 1. Buenas noches. Gracias.